You're listening to Truth Hurts podcast, presented by myself, Mark Sheppard, and special guests. Hello and welcome to this episode of Truth Hurts podcast. My name's Mark Sheppard, your host, and this episode is going to be split into two parts. This is the second part of the family law podcast. The first half is about general services, so family court, all the associated services. So that episode has previously gone. This one, we're going to be talking to people that have been directly affected and impacted by the family court. Today, I'm joined by Charlotte, who's a website developer, and I'm also joined by Steve, who is a senior project engineer. So what we're going to do is we're going to just talk about your experiences of family court. If I could start with Charlotte, please. Tell us a little bit more about your experience with family court.
My whole experience with family court has been absolutely horrendous. I had a family court order from 2019 that clearly stated that my children were to reside with me and spend every other weekend with their father. However, in October 2020, my children's father decided that he was not going to return the children back to me, which left me in a difficult position. I didn't know what to do. So I thought I'd go and see if I can get some help from the police. However, the police turned around to me and said that the family court order was not worth the paper that it's written on. And they didn't support me in any way, shape or form. I went back to the family courts trying to get some help, and because due to COVID everything was delayed, I didn't get any support whatsoever, and as you can imagine, one minute dropping my children at school to then going to pick them up from school and them not being there it broke my heart. So I was left with no choice, and I tried to do everything in my own hands because I just felt like there was no one supporting me. I had nowhere to go, nothing to do. And so after all of that was happening, with the courts waiting for responses to come back to me, the police were involved in it, and they just kind of targeted me. They put me in the wrong, saying I shouldn't be at the school. I'm causing the father distress. And so I left the school. I was waiting weeks for social workers to get in contact with me to try and arrange some family time. In the meantime, the children had been absolutely brainwashed into hating me. And then just nothing was happening for months on end, weeks on end. I wasn't getting any emails, I wasn't getting any phone calls of any updates, and I was just becoming more and more distressed. Obviously the court, because of COVID, like I said, was so far behind. It just nothing seemed to, though if you tried to ring them, you couldn't get through to them. There was just no help and support. And bearing in mind, in my situation, the children's father's not even on the birth certificates. And I already had a family court order that clearly stated the children were to live with me. And to be told that it wasn't worth the paper it was written on was just, I don't know how you react to it. I really don't. I don't know if that's the case, then why are family court orders given out to people if they're not powerful, if no one could do anything about it. And then then we finally got to December and there was a court hearing, but in the meantime, because he kept ringing the police on me, it went back to court, and they said the children were to live with my mum and dad in the meantime, because that's where I was living at the time. So they didn't order to the father for them to go and live with him. They ordered it to my kids to go and live with my mum and dad. However, again, that was another court order, and he chose not to return them as a few months went on. My mum and dad were saying that the boys wanted to see me, And they were even sending pictures to social services saying, can you send these to Charlotte, please? He tried to turn my mum and dad against me because he threatened my mum and dad that if you let Charlotte see the boys, then I'll make sure that you don't see them again. In which case the courts, like I said, they put another court order in place saying for them to live with my mum and dad, and he chose not to return them back to my mum and dad. So what he did to me was exactly then what he goes on to do to my mum and dad, which right from the beginning, right from when I've known the children's father, he has controlled me and my parents in everything we've done, and my children. The courts have never ever ordered for the children to live with him full time. He's never wanted them full time anyway. And so again, the police have still been involved for the last 15 months. And even though he didn't return them back, they chose not to follow that court order either. And then it's almost like so he should have been at contempt of court for doing that twice. However, we've gone back to court and he's made an allegation saying that my mum and dad used to hit the children when my mum and dad would never hit my children ever. And so he stopped my mum and dad from seeing them all together now. And so obviously it's just down to me to pick up the fight to try and battle through this family court issue. However, when he's got the boys full time and he's manipulating them, it's just very difficult because social workers. So, for example, if I read something out from social services for an email from them, so they're stating that since the children have been living with their father, the court awarded the children's father an interim child arrangement order for the children to reside in his care while further assessments are undertaken to determine their final care plans. The local authority cannot instruct the father to make the children available for family time as we do not share parental responsibility, as there are no court directions around family time that would require the father to make the children available. The children's team are trying to facilitate contact with the father's agreements. He has now agreed family time, but only at a contact centre at social services. I understand your reservations about this, and hopefully once family time is stable, we could progress contact into the community. So not only that I didn't do anything wrong in the first place, but he can maliciously take my children. I'm now having to do supervised contact at social services because that is because he's telling people, authorities, he's trying to control everything I'm doing still. And I was questioning why there's two people supervising contact, considering for 15 months they told me that no one was available to do contact, and that's why I had no contact whatsoever with my children in the whole time. And they said the reason why two workers had been present for the initial family time is to inform our risk assessment because of the alleged concerns by the father that you would remove the children. So he told them that I was going to remove the children, so I'm having to have supervised contact and I'm not allowed to go anywhere. So after
just out of interest, Charlotte, because I think we need to show people how long you've been doing this and where it all started. So when did you first have to? Because did you put in a child arrangements order?
So he's taken me to court ever since they were born. So 2014 was initially when I first got taken to court. I actually lost my child for 3 weeks when I was pregnant because he didn't want anything when he found out I was pregnant, he didn't want anything to do with me. And so he just kind of like left me to it. But then he was saying that I was harassing him and causing him distress and everything else. And I said, well, all I've done is told you that I'm pregnant and that you've gone and phoned the police on me. And then there was restraining orders put in place, which he used to his advantage. And he just basically just used and abused me for as long as he could.
So out of interest, when you say that he didn't want anything to do, why do you think he's doing all of this in the first place? What is his end game?
I don't know. So he's always said that he's going to make sure that he takes the children off me. right from day one.
For what reason, though?
I just think it's because I'm not with him, because I made that choice not to be in that
So you
horrible
separated
toxic.
from him. You
Yeah, I
instigated that
separated from
separation.
him. Yeah.
Okay, so ever since, because I know this very well, unfortunately. So when you first instigated that separation, all of this started. This
Yeah,
whole
all of it.
process.
Yeah.
So when he said to you, right, that's it, I'm going to take those children off you, what was your initial thought? Did you think about court at the time, or was this something that happened later on down the line?
So family court, I bearing in mind I was only 17 years old, and he's now, I think he's about 48 years old. So
Okay.
he's a lot older than what I am. So he's a lot more, at the time, he was a lot more switched on. He knew what he was doing, whereas I was just a young person, just still trying to find my feet. Didn't really know much about family court, if I'm completely honest with you. Didn't know how it worked. I didn't know what to expect. Obviously, like being pregnant and stuff, like wasn't really in a financial position. I was still working full time, but family court's very expensive, and to try and get a solicitor. However, I did get a solicitor in the end, and it cost me thousands of pounds. So I spent in total about £8,000, and I think that's why I kind of got my children back. I had to go to a mother and baby unit to prove that I was capable of looking after my children, because back then, when I was like when I was 17, when I first gave birth, he wasn't at the birth, but he claimed that I wasn't a capable mother because he wanted to take them back then. So I said to them, I said, well, I haven't even been a mother yet. I've just gave birth, and we're in court at 10 o'clock the next morning, and then you've taken my child off me because he said that I'm not a fit mum. And I said, what have I done? Like, you can't just take kids off people left, right, and centre when I've never been a mum before, but just because I'm younger than him did not make me an unfit mum.
And what did he do? Who did he speak to?
I have no idea. So I think he just put in a court application, but
Right.
the police instigated everything because of him getting me arrested all the time. It was obviously that feeds back to social
Services and
services,
stuff like that.
and
Yeah.
so they were all trying to work together. But because he was older, he was like manipulating authorities into believing what he said was right. Okay, I'll put my hands up, and yeah, I was younger, so maybe I did overreact a bit and didn't deal with things the best way towards him. But at the end of the day, he shouldn't have been getting restraining orders, etc. And then he was emailing me, like when he had restraining orders, and he's like, I don't care what you do, I'm getting a restraining order to keep you far away from me. I don't care where you go or what you do, I never want to see you again. Literally a few minutes later, too busy now, lying and cheating. Another email a few minutes later, Charlotte, I want you to know that I know you keep sleeping with guys, and I know you lie all the time and can't face the truth and tell me. And then again, a few minutes later, who was it last night? So he was literally using it, like the police as a power of force against me, to continue to control me because I didn't want to be with him. And then as soon as I've had children, the controlling behaviour has just got so intense, and it's just made, I can't say for the last 7 years of having my children that it's been a nice experience. Like from the moment that they've been born, it's just not been, social services were out of my life finally in 2019, 2019, when all court was over, and everything was all sorted. But then 2020, they're back in my life again. And it's just not, how can it just, because I was younger, having children, make me an unfit mum? I don't understand what I did so wrong to deserve what I'm going
But
through
you
now.
didn't. This is the thing, Charlotte. You've got to understand, you didn't do anything wrong. The problem that we have, and it's always been a problem, especially when it comes to social services and family court, it's always seems like whoever gets in there first and shouts the loudest, okay, seems to get the benefit of their support. Now, he sounds very controlling, okay, and unfortunately, when you separate from certain people, they take it as you hate them, and you just don't want to see them again. But when you've got children, you've got to understand that you've got to have a balance, regardless of how you feel about them. You still need to have unless that person is and has been proven to be abusive towards the children, there needs to be a relationship. Okay, there needs to be some form of relationship. Now, unfortunately, the courts don't believe this. Again, they believe whoever puts in the application first and whoever shouts the loudest will get their support. Just like in your situation, people don't want to hear that you're suffering. They don't care about that. All they care about is who shouts the loudest. And your ex did that. He was older than you, so he was able to manipulate not only you, but the services that were supposed to support both of you. That's what these services are there for, to support both of you. It's not about just supporting one side. Now, you should never have had to go through that. But unfortunately, this is the reality. And this is why this podcast exists, is to discuss situations like this so people can be more aware of it. I myself, hold my hand up, I have also been in a similar situation as to you, Charlotte. I had a very controlling ex-partner. She knew how much I loved my children, and she used that against me. She told me that I will never see my child again. She made it very clear. When I said to her I didn't want to be with her anymore because of her behavior, and she was very manipulative and she was very controlling as well. I wasn't even allowed to speak to other women, even, close female friends. I wasn't even allowed to do that. And she really did isolate me. And they can use the fact that you have a child to also control your feelings and what you're trying to do, especially when it comes to seeing family. She isolated me from my mum, my the grandparents of the child. It's horrendous. But again, if you tell anyone about this, they either don't listen and they're not interested, or they go against you. It's a very, very difficult situation. So we're gonna come back to you in a second, Charlotte. We've got Steve. Steve, tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the family court and what your experiences were.
Hi. Well, I was married in 2009. Controlling, again, she had a controlling relationship with me, and when was born in 2011, then in going forward to 2014, she had an affair, and then I took her back, and then she went back with the same guy in 2017. Moved away from we were living in Aberdeen, and she moved to near Glasgow way. I didn't know where, so I didn't know where my daughter was. I've got a stepdaughter as well that I brought up since she was 2 years old. And it's only recently that I'm actually starting to speak to her again as well, because that kind of went awry. So 2017, I had to move out of the home, and then she moved away, as I said. Then I was getting access, and then access stopped for flimsy reasons.
Just out of curiosity, just expand on the reasoning why the contact stopped, because a lot of people don't realize sometimes how silly it can be to stop people having access.
Silly. So, and this is what happened. She used this in court, which they just threw out. It was I'd had my daughter in a hotel room, because I had to obviously travel from Aberdeen down to Stirling at that time, and we went to it's like a road services place. So WH Smith's, a few little toys in there. She picked up a set of toy handcuffs. So I took a picture of her in them. She took a picture of me with them, with sad face, and that was used in court. But to be honest, the court just said, no, this was just a toy. It wasn't adult handcuffs. But that was one of the reasons she stopped contact. and I actually went a year with no contact from 2018. After contacts, I had to go to a contact centre.
So, out of interest, before you went to the contact, because this applies to both of you actually. So, before you actually went to the contact centre, was there any proof that either of you were a danger to the children at that time?
No, for me,
no. Other than seeing me distressed, like upset for not being able to get to my children and the police being called on me every single day. I was just upset. I was crying. I wasn't a danger to my children at all, but they were saying that I was emotionally abusing them by trying to go to the school to see them, but I was never seeing them anyway. So even though I was standing outside the school gates trying to see them, they never seen me. So that he's got no evidence of when he's took me to court and said I'm an unfit mum. That was what his application was. Bearing in mind he's taken me to court every single year since 2014. He's never, like I said, he's never won his battles.
So nothing's ever been proven.
Nothing's ever been proven. This is what annoys me and upsets me the most, is that I've done everything. I've done freedom programs. I've done mother and baby unit for like three months. I think I was there, 3 or 6 months. Can't remember now. Literally, I'd done everything, and it all came out all positive. And psychological assessment, that's all came back fine. I've just done another psychological assessment this year, and they've put it down to trauma based. It's not. I don't have any personality disorders or behaviours problems or anything, and it's all trauma based. How it's come back, and it's just how can I go 15 months with not seeing my children because he's made one application, he's filled out some paperwork with no evidence to support a single thing what he's saying, for me not to now be separated from my children. It will never make any sense to me how someone can do that, how you can just put in an application with no evidence, because if this was criminal, you're innocent until proven guilty, and it doesn't go anywhere unless you've got some kind of evidence to support what you're saying.
It feels like my ex-wife, if she writes something down, that becomes the truth.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how it feels with me as well.
You know, and you can paint a different picture. I mean, you know, the court actually saw, you know, it was just a play toy with these handcuffs, and it actually absolutely was. But you know, this is someone I lived with. I never her daughter, which became, you know, my stepdaughter. Why would I do it to my own daughter? You know, and you have to prove yourself as a father all the time. Even now, after I've got the court order settled, I'm still jumping through hoops because, as Charlotte said earlier, what does the court order do really? And for me, I've got a riding factor that says the child's wishes, and that's in the background. I worry what is happening with my daughter at home.
The funny thing is with your particular case, Steve, is what I know I said this to you before, but I do believe your ex-partner has this condition, okay, where she exasperates anything to do with your daughter, okay? And I said this to you before, that I believe that she may have some form of a personality disorder because of the way she overreacts to you just being a father.
Yeah.
And I find it bizarre that she's been allowed to do that, just like in Charlotte's case, where you can call up a social services and say, oh, this person is abusive because I say so.
Yeah.
With no evidence.
The first social work that were involved, like 2018, 2019, really terrible. I expressed my concerns. I sent email after email about what I should probably say is during the year that I didn't see my daughter, she was diagnosed for ADHD, and I was told she had autism. The autism finally got diagnosed last year, and I can see it. I actually took courses in autism awareness, but I'm still a little dubious on the ADHD front, but also just supporting what you said, Mark. As you know, I'm getting told by my ex-wife that my daughter needs a wheelchair, but when I take her out, she walks everywhere. She has a sensory problem, which is part of autism, which is she gets stingy feet. She's got hyperhidrosis, which makes her sweaty feet. She just wears flip-flops. So I can see her having a wheelchair just because of the cold weather, and she can put a blanket on her feet because she won't wear any kind of shoes or socks at the moment. But we're hoping that. But I do kind of feel the ex-wife is pushing her to be in a wheelchair, which is not a normal thing to.
It's disturbing. That's what it is, Steve. Yeah. It's disturbing.
Yeah. So
you're being very polite on that. I think
the social workers have been looking into it now, the new ones. So they're being quite supportive of me in that regard. Well, not me, my daughter.
Your daughter, exactly, which they should be.
Yeah. So I've had really bad experiences with social workers, but also not so bad, and hopefully they keep working at this, because I can see she's got autism, I can see her sensory issues, but there should be more positivity about what she can do
and support for you as well.
And I get told I'm either too harsh or I'm too soft with her. So
do you know what the problem is with all of this is you can't do right from wrong. I said to them in the first place, one thing that he said was that I didn't care about my children. So why am I so distressed and why am I so bothered? But to social services, if in the beginning when he took them, I didn't react or didn't do anything, they would use that against me and say, oh, well, she don't care about her children anyway. But then if I get upset and just want to see my children, it's,
that you're unstable.
I'm an unstable, what do they call me? Emotional, what do they call me? I can't even remember what they call me now. Just emotionally unstable something. I can't remember what they say now. But it's just disturbing how they keep labelling. They said that I had bipolar, and I said to the social workers, I said, you are not even trained in mental health. I said, you don't even understand people's situations. I said, and the problem with a lot of you social workers is that you don't have children. I said, so you do not have that emotional connection with a child to understand how all these parents are feeling.
Correct.
So
a lot of the ex-partners know that there's this phrase, silver bullet, okay? And a lot of the ex-partners know how to. I don't know whether they do research online or whether they join forums. I don't know how they know this, but one thing I do know is they all use it. They all use it in court, okay? And if they want to put the nail in the coffin for the loving parent to stop them from seeing that child, all they have to do is say they've abused them.
They've beat them. He's told social work. He's told my kid's father, and this has never, ever been on any paperwork, he said, so this has come out, he said that I've hidden in a wardrobe and come out at him with a knife, and obviously I've never, ever done that. So to hear this coming out like all these years later, I'm just there like horrified to hear the stories of what's being said to them to make me look like this unfit mum. But again, there's no evidence to support what he's saying. There's never been a police log to say that I've ever done that. And it's just like, why is everything seems to be about me? It's not like between what he's saying that I've done to him. Nothing's about what I've done to my children, or I've never hurt my children. I've never mistreated my children. All I've ever done is love them and support them and care for them and do my best for them. But this whole battle for the last 15 months has just been targeting me. It's not even saying about the children, or he's just using the boys as like ammunition. That's all, just to get back at me.
Exactly. And that's what happens. This is what is actually allowed. The fact that you can target a parent, even though they're trying to use the kids and say, well, it's all about it's not about the kids. If it was really about the kids, then the court would stop this nonsense in the first place. They wouldn't even let it happen. The kids should have the ability to see both parents, provided that it's safe to do so. And I've always said this, if it's safe to do so, then there should be nothing stopping both parents co-parenting, and even if they can't co-parent, at least some kind of proxy parenting should be allowed, and they should have regular contact regardless.
And the use of the contact centre, that should be evaluated before having to progress to it, because it just seemed I had to go and see my daughter in a horrible place. It was,
which costs a fortune.
Yeah, taxpayers. It didn't cost me anything actually, but it was just on a whim of the ex-wife. Oh, I'm going to make you see it from a contact centre.
Yeah, and it works.
Exactly how I feel.
There was no. There should be a reason why.
No justification.
Exactly, a justification for it.
They just say, right, we don't like you anymore because you finished with me, or you divorced me. I'm going to make your life difficult. So
this is even it's different to both of your two situations. She left me, cool, but why punish me further by stopping me seeing my daughter?
Exactly.
Children should not be used as weapons, and unfortunately, in these kind of relationships, they're just used as weapons to make people unhappy. And I think the problem with my ex was that he hated to see me ever happy, and he's watched me go through so much pain since 2014, since when I first got pregnant, and he didn't believe me. And then to the whole 9 months, he accused me of being with someone else, and then I had to do a DNA test to prove that child is his. And as soon as it's come back and said it's his, he's like a different person. It's like he suddenly cares and everything, like he tries to love me again. And
was he a jealous person?
Oh, very jealous.
Because to me, that makes no sense. If you are in a relationship with someone, now, whether or not he was embarrassed by your age or whatever, I don't know. Okay, he might have been embarrassed by the age difference. He might have been panicking about the age difference. So he's thinking, right, I need to control this situation. Who knows what he was thinking? Who knows what he was thinking? But all I do know is if you're not on the birth certificate and you take no interest in a particular child or children, then why are you even doing this? Why are you creating a situation that doesn't need to be there? But now the issue that most people have is whether the ex-partner has finished with you or you finished with them. If they see you moving on, they put a stop to it.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want you to move on.
That was going to say, Mark, and it seemed if I did get into another relationship, the ante would move up.
Exactly.
The abusive texts that I would get. And
but then if it's the other way around,
she's
it's fine, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the scary thing.
Before he took my children, he even warned me. He texted me saying that so he was obsessed with face. So in the court order, it said that if we were 2 weeks apart on holiday, then we had to FaceTime. However, he took that as that he could FaceTime me every single night in the middle of the day, asking to see the children, when actually that's not the case at all. I'm at work, I'm busy. But again, he wanted to see what I was up to, where I was. And then so that was an issue for him, and he just threatened me every single week. I'm going to take you back to court because I wasn't answering his FaceTime calls, and I was trying to be reasonable with him. But sometimes, there has to come to a stop when you can't just keep saying yes to someone that you're not with. And I think as soon as I put my foot down and started saying no to him, that's when the abuses got higher. And he texted me and he was saying 2020 you're going to see me being less tolerant, Charlotte, and that's going to see I'll be taking you back to court, and I'll make sure that you don't see your boys. And even before all this has gone on for 15 months, his first line of his application says, I want 100% custody. And yet he had no valid reason as to why he should have 100% custody. So he's just pursued in this malicious attack. And
so out of interest, because you said you dated someone after him.
Yeah.
What happened? Did he find out? What was his reaction to that?
So unfortunately, I had an ectopic pregnancy, and that's the only way that he found out. Really, was because I didn't have day-to-day conversations with him. I shouldn't have to tell him what I was doing.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, it was his weekend to have the boys. I was rushed to surgery, and I just had to text him saying, my mum or my dad's going to drop the boys off to you. I'm in hospital. And his reaction was like, what now? like just being really off with me, and I just said, oh, I've just had to have surgery, and I shouldn't have to explain to him what surgery I was having.
No.
And then I just lied to him and just said I had a cyst that needed to be removed, because I knew as soon as I told him that I'd be pregnant, he'd know straight away that I was seeing someone else.
Yeah.
But then it all came out in the end anyway, and he found out I was pregnant. My eldest, unfortunately, told the kid's dad that I was the person that I was seeing was a police officer, and he doesn't like the police anyway. And I don't even know, like, his reaction. I can't really describe it, but it was just not nice.
But did he up the ante though? Did he up the ante with the children?
Yeah, he turned my children against me.
And this is a common trait. If you look at most people's ex-partners in this situation, where we should be looking at having a healthy relationship, you don't have to particularly like your ex-partners. You don't have to. But what you have to do when it comes to children is have some form of communication in terms of how to sort of co-parent with them. You don't have to be best friends. You don't have to be best friends. And any court or social services person that says you have to be is lying. You don't. All you have to do is have some kind of communication for pickups, drop-offs, and if something should happen to the children in your care or whoever's got them at the time, that they communicate that across. That's it.
This manipulation can be very subtle in parental alienation.
Yes.
My experience is because I got a court order that's every other weekend and every Wednesday. It seemed like on my weekends, Grandma would come down to her house, to the mum's house, and then my daughter would be then like, oh, I want to be there, because she didn't see her, Gra. It just seemed, a few times that happened. So it's like she was also sort of, Dad's got a court order, so you have to go to Dad this weekend. So it makes her like upset to have to come to me.
Correct.
So,
manipulation.
That's a subtle manipulation.
Correct.
Now and again, hopefully I explained that.
No, but this is what I was talking about.
It's not
both of you are going to find that you've had that. They'll say or do something. So, for instance, they'll try and persuade the children not to want to come to you.
That's exactly what I've had. Yeah.
Yeah, whether it be, and that is parental alienation. However you want to phrase it or whatever, that is parental alienation. That is what they do to manipulate the child into believing that being with them is more important than seeing the other parent. And they'll do anything.
Voice to the child. Oh, he's told you off. He's shouted at you. No, I've not told lady, and I've told her that's something she's not allowed to do.
Exactly. Discipline is not a bad thing.
Yeah. Normal range parenting.
Exactly.
But it can be twisted and turned.
To make you look like the bad person.
And then when the social workers try and investigate it, they said, we have to look into why the children are saying that they don't want to see you. And they said, we've asked the children why they don't want to see you. And they've said, whenever we ask them, they just say, I don't know. So surely if a child says that they don't want to see the parent, they haven't got a reason, and that's because they've been manipulated. But social workers seem to believe that. I don't know why they're so stupid. And
it doesn't take a genius, does it? Let's be honest. No. It doesn't take a genius to work out. Hold on, I've asked the kid, "Do you want to see your other parent?" No. Okay, why? Why? Don't know. No. That makes sense. Surely then you as a
shout aggressively at you. No, none of these things.
Exactly. Have they hit you? No.
Is he Joseph Fritzl in disguise? No.
Exactly. So you think to yourself, but then why are you, as the social worker, not investigating that? Why are you not looking into that more? I've heard horrendous stories about the things that some parents have been, especially to the fact of being paedophiles and all sorts, telling, the children all kinds of horrendous things. The scary thing is the social workers don't investigate. Now,
No,
it's mainly because they're not trained. So I understand that. But then surely, if something falls into a criminal matter, surely that gets passed on to the police to do a criminal investigation to prove or disapprove. Yeah?
Yeah,
That's what they should be doing.
This is the stage that I'm at, is that this is controlling coercive behaviour, so the police should have acted upon this straight away instead of 15 minutes down the line, it continuing to happen. And now I'm at a stage where I don't have my boys. I'm about to be criminalised in January for harassment. Yeah, the court order, like I said, they reside with me, and it's just I've been distressed. My mental health has been affected, and then that was used against me. And literally when I was 6 months into this battle, I didn't know what way to turn to. I had no help, I had no support. Obviously, tried to turn to social media for a bit of guidance, and then that was used against me because apparently I stated on there parental alienation, and the police officer said that's about the children's father, and I said, does it mention his name? No. I said parental alienation is something that's used in family courts. I said, you're a police officer. I said, you don't work in courts. I said, but you're trying to criminalise me for harassment, saying because I've mentioned parental alienation. And they was like, yeah, well, that's targeted at him. But you're wrong, officer, because I can't even have a freedom of speech now. That's the point you get to with family court, is that
Correct.
You will be criminalised if you speak up about anything going on with your children. But do you know what? I've gone 15 minutes down the line battling. I'm still lucky to be sat here having this conversation now because it really affected my mental health. And I won't say that I'm okay now because, do you know what, I still have these days, like yesterday when I'm sat here crying, thinking, how and when will this ever end? Because
exactly.
Family courts go on for many, many years. And when social services are involved, I'm now on social worker number 11. And I just don't know. Some of them, I even say to them, like this current one I've got, I said, she said when I first met her like a few months ago, this new one, she said, she said, Charlotte, I've got it on a recording as well. This is the stage I've had to get to, is record my conversations behind their backs. And she said to me, she said, I really don't know how you're coping. She said, and Charlotte, she said, if I was in your situation, I'd be acting a lot worse than what you are. And then she makes me sign this non-legal agreement saying that I won't be upset or like misbehave when seeing the children or anything. They literally make me out. They literally make me out like I'm this psychopath person on paperwork. And then we have these meetings. So I met them face to face, the operations directors a couple of weeks ago, and they said, gosh, you were not what we were expecting. And I said, oh, sorry, I'm not your typical like drug user or alcoholic person who abandons a child. I said, no, I'm not. I said, what you read on paper about me is exactly what I'm not. And I said, so you've just judged me straight away. And
they do that. When you are not having regular contact with a child or non-resident, okay, they immediately criminalize you.
Oh,
You're the bad parent.
Yeah.
That's how you felt. That's how I felt when happening.
Yeah, that's how I felt. That's how I genuinely felt. I felt like you.
Contact center,
Did you not have any sort of contact with CAFCAS?
Oh, yeah.
No, they don't have that in Scotland.
Oh yeah, what's your alternative?
There is no. I had two bar reports that were done by an independent solicitor. The second one was actually requested by the ex-wife, but both of them were in my favour. Both of them said that I was a kind, loving dad, and my daughter had a loving relationship with her. They came to see her.
But she still managed to manipulate the situation, though, didn't she?
No, because the court, and then those two bar reports, then the first one was bar report to promote contact, because I had to get contact first, so I had it every 4 hours.
Did the ex-wife promote that? This is what I'm saying. Did she go out of her way because of that?
No,
that report
after the initial court award. I think it was 2019, to get every 4 hours, every other Saturday, which I did for maybe about 5 months. Then the next report supported residential, so then I was allowed, and then I moved down to.
You moved. You actually physically moved location.
Yeah, I moved from Aberdeen to near Glasgow so I could be near my daughter and I could have residential with her. Because of COVID, I could work from home, so that worked okay. So now,
but she still manages to manipulate the situation, even though this is the thing that people don't understand when it comes to court. You can win all day long, and I don't like the word win because no one wins in family court. But you can get a glowing court order from the court saying, yeah, you can do this, you can do that. But then the ex-partner won't abide by it. No. It doesn't matter. They'll just manipulate the situation and they'll just stop contact when they feel like it.
Yeah, so as far as I see things in family court over here, is basically you don't have to follow family court orders, and if you breach that court order, it means absolutely nothing. So if you was over here, Steve, you could, as soon as you get your child for contact, you don't have to return it, and no one will do anything. No one will care. Like, you can just carry on with your life and keep that child. So like, he's took my children. He's not on the birth certificates. And he can make all these allegations against me. As someone who is on the birth certificates, who has carried those children for 9 months, who's lived with me for the last 7 years, can just take them just like that, and it means absolutely nothing to no one else. It's so bizarre. Like, the family court's never ordered ever for them to permanently live with him, because in the judge's eyes, they see that.
And I think that's.
In the judge's eyes, they see that a child needs their mum, because obviously they do need their mum.
I wouldn't do that to my daughter.
No, and I think it's only
fair. I dislike her mum. I know she loves her mum.
Exactly. I would never stop contact, regardless of how I feel about the ex-partner.
Exactly.
I would never, ever stop contact.
And I even said the other day, after 15 months of the hell and torture that he's put me through, in fact, like the last 7 years, like I said, I would never turn around and say, do you know what, cut all contact with him. Like, don't want him ever to see them, because both children, and like I've said the whole time, is that they have a mum and dad for a reason, and they need that mum figure in their life, and they need that dad figure in their life.
Correct.
The fact is with him is that he, even though he's a lot older than me, he's just not seeing what the children's best interests at heart. Because if he honestly did, then why would you take them away from their mum? Because even the judge said in the April court hearing, he said to the children's father, he said, if you've honestly got children's best interests at heart, you would not take them away from their mum. So like, the courts were ordering me to have regular contact, and social weren't abiding by the court orders, and he just kept saying, the boys don't want to see their mum. But again, like, when social workers ask, why don't you want to see their mum? They're like, I don't know. Like, no reason.
I'm curious, actually, about that, because you said that he's not on the birth certificates. Has he applied through the court for any kind of parental rights?
Yeah, so obviously we had previous court proceedings, and because he was listed to be Ashton, my eldest son's dad, like, he's only had a DNA on my eldest. However, my youngest, who's just turned 6, he was conceived when there was a restraining order in place, and there's no DNA done on him. So technically, there's no proof that my youngest is even his.
Right.
So he just got away with, like I said, just.
But did he apply for parental rights over those children?
No, he's never. No.
So see that, Steve. How has he managed that? That is
his whole 15 months of doing everything.
Because I don't know. Even with parental rights, we still don't get to see our children. He's managed to do that.
If I was like trying to get my medical records, I had to prove my parental rights.
Exactly.
Well, is there a parental rights certificate?
But that's the thing. That's the funny thing about it. We would all three of us, if we needed to get any information about our own children, we would need to jump through so many hoops.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just to prove that we're the parent.
The birth certificate. I had to go to the town hall and get because I only had the abbreviated one. You can't do it with the abbreviated one. You need the full one.
Full one, exactly.
So, and then the court order and everything, and I had to send that to him. So, okay. And then I've got all the medical records, and that's another story. Yeah.
Well, yes, exactly. Okay, so to wrap things up, okay, what would you two? How would you improve the system? How do you think the system can be improved to stop other parents going through this?
So, like, with family courts, like I said, it's not you're innocent until proven guilty. You can literally put in any application you want. and without any proof. The judges are obviously trained to see through things. However, in some scenarios when the abuse is so intense, and social workers get involved, and then so many different authorities get involved, it gets really messy, and no one's got a set record of what's going on. And personally, I feel that social workers are very toxic people, that they're not transparent. So,
Correct.
like I've said before, is with the police, at least when you do a statement with them, they sit there and they say, "You happy with this?" and you sign it, and it cannot be amended. And they wear body-worn cameras when they're talking to people, so for evidence. However, social workers can go and talk to your children. Yet, do you know what? They're just people off the street. You don't know who they are talking to your children, and how confusing it must be for my two, having 11 different grown-ups plus all the police talking to them. In their heads they must be like, oh, like, what is going on? But they just don't understand because they're too young.
Correct.
So the more transparency is needed. You should not be allowed to put in court applications just like that unless you've got evidence to show that that child's being abused. In my situation, I think it's so minimal that he's putting an application saying I'm an unfit mum when all I did was had an ectopic pregnancy and I was seeing someone else. But like I said, he was a police officer, and at the end of the day, there was nothing bad happening. There was no abuse between me and him. Obviously, me and him broke up because of the situation going on and his job, etc. But that shouldn't be the case. And like I said, it's took me many years to try and even move on to then want to be with someone else because of everything I've been through.
Correct.
And then I was ready to move on. Then look where I am now. I'm now sat back without my children. And I just think, was it all worth it?
But the thing is, Charlotte, before you say if it's worth it, you, like many of us, never assume that this is going to happen. When you break up with someone, whether they've cheated on you or whatever the circumstances, maybe just fallen out of love, okay, whatever, you choose to separate. That doesn't mean you're separating from your children, okay? Mm-hmm. You're separating from that person. But that person, unfortunately, sees it as, well, if you're not with me, then you're not with the children. You can't see the children.
And you're not with anyone else.
You're not with, and then I will make your life hell, so you can't be with anyone else.
Oh yeah.
And literally, most of the parents I know that have gone through this situation with the family court are single because they're too frightened to get back into a relationship with anyone because they don't want this happening again. And they don't want more kids. They don't want to live their lives anymore like they used to because they're too scared to. I hope whoever's listening to this podcast actually appreciates the strength that these parents have by coming on here and talking about their stories. Well, that's unfortunately all we have time for on this episode. But I want to thank Charlotte and Steve for sharing their stories about their experiences with family court. And we will catch you on the next episode.
I'm Trisha Tharby. I'm from the UK, and I listen to Truth Hurts podcast.
Hi, I'm Steve from England, and I'm listening to the Truth Hurts podcast.
I'm Christina from the UK, and I'm listening to the Truth Hurts podcast.
Hi, my name is Mark Hegarty and I'm from Wales in the UK, and I am listening to the Truth Hurts podcast.
I'm Jay Dean from the Netherlands, and I'm listening to Truth Hurts podcast.
Hey, what's good, people? It's Missy here. Guess what? I'm listening to Truth Hurts podcast.